We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We reject indecision, confusion, and vanity, for they work against the community. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. Happy Thursday to you. My name is Paul.
My name's Rob, and this is episode number 347. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us. We appreciate it.
We definitely appreciate it. We love seeing those photos on Instagram if you tag us at the Drone U, or if you go to facebook.com/DroneU. Also, if you like the podcast or have found it informative or helpful to you, leave us a review or share the podcast because it helps other people find us and it helps us progress education in this community. And we just want to say thank you to all the federal agencies that are watching us. Hello. And thank you for letting us continue on. Guess we're doing something right, so anyway,
yes, I guess.
I'll just leave it at that.
Haven't found enough yet.
Like, we can't get them yet. But no, I'm kidding. You know, I really appreciate it. And I say that because John has told me he's met a few people from NASA and the NTSB that listen to us, and they're like, they actually really like what you guys have to say.
That's cool.
So I'm like, that's cool. I mean, I guess we're providing that unbiased, like, well, here's both sides of the story. I may be a little bit passionate about one more side, but Rob is here to kind of even me out and beat me up in the hallway before we podcast. That's why sometimes I start the podcast like, meh. So anyway.
No, and let's just make it clear. We all love Paul's passion, right? And it's what makes this podcast what it is. We get that, and so we don't want to stifle that at all.
Well, I appreciate that,
So
Rob.
even though the beatings happen in the hallway, that's for a different reason. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
he
man.
beats me up.
Yeah, right. Anyway, guys, very excited. New news here in the drone world. There's some new things come out. We should have probably talked about them last week, but the drone rifles are the drone rifles are becoming a big thing. As you guys know,
the drone rifles.
Yeah, the drone rifles. Yeah, I'm talking about the things that are supposed to they're supposed to make you have a signal loss so that the drone flies home. And I've been seeing a lot more of them in recent days. Also, in last week's news, France is deploying the same anti-drone technology at all of their soccer games. So,
really?
Yeah, we're seeing some emergence of anti-drone technology.
What kind of anti-drone technology? That what you just described?
Well, kind of the same thing I just described, yeah.
Interesting.
Because, I mean, you've seen Japan and China do the whole, hey, we're just going to fly an S-900 with a what is it called, a net, and then just catch the drone. But, that takes a lot of time to get it set up and prepared and take off. And so,
well, they're also working on lasers to take drones down.
Which is... How do I say this? Without autonomous software, like the same type of stuff we see in missiles, it's going to be very difficult to actually be practical because you've got to have a thermal camera to lock onto the heat signature of the drone, and then it has to pick the correct heat signature, and then it has to pinpoint that while it's on the move and then heat it up. But then, it would fall right out of the sky. But here's the thing that doesn't make sense in the eyes of government. If the whole idea here is safety and to not have drones falling out of the sky, then why would you make a weapon that makes them fall out of the sky and hit people? That's why I actually like the rifle idea, because it's not a laser, it's just a radio signal, and it still allows the drone to land safely, and it's not going to hurt anyone, and it's also going to show where the operator is. So I think it's actually brilliant technology to really heat off all the guys that we don't want flying drones, all the guys that are giving us a bad rap, I think it's a great idea. The whole laser thing, though, I don't think that's a good idea. And when I was in college, I rented a house with a buddy of mine who now works, he worked at the time at Sandia National Labs and the Air Force, and now he's up at Colorado Springs, and he was developing laser technology. And I know that the technology already exists. I just don't think it's a smart way to go. It's more of a, let's just make a path and break things and then figure out how it goes. That's kind of Facebook's mantra, and now it's finally coming to bite them in the butt. I mean, recently we saw that every article that you see as trending on Facebook was actually hand-selected to be put in the trending column, and that certain certain Democrat things were put in there instead of all things. So, it just goes to show that really you got to be careful about your news sources, and you really got to think things through. And there's just a lot of learning to be.
No doubt there. I think as it relates
lesson.
to anti-drone technology, they all will have their place. And so
Yeah.
use them wisely, whether it be laser, whether it be this rifle technology. There are probably going to be applications where one makes more sense than the other, and therefore we use them all as wisely as we possibly can.
I think a great implementation of the laser would be along the coastlines, for international threats to the nation. I think the lasers would be an amazing idea.
Yeah, or a kind of an extreme example might be if you've got a drone coming in that's recognized as having some sort of explosive on it, some serious explosive, maybe heading towards a stadium, and for whatever reason they've got the anti-rifle technology on the drone. I mean, there's going to be they're going to be combating the anti-drone technologies as well. So there's going to be sort of that chess match potentially, and I might be getting ahead of myself. And this isn't Star Wars, I get it, but it sort of is potentially.
Well, you want to know the anti-rifle technology? I'll tell you right now. So if you just wrap your flight controller in a carbon fiber, it's like a Faraday cage.
Yeah.
So if you're running an autonomous mission, the word rifle I don't think would work.
Okay. There you go.
But some autonomous planners, I'm not going to say which ones, are having constant communications with the drone, and if you lose that signal, it still flies home. I'm not going to say which is which, but there are things that these people are going to have to be thinking through, because think of like the high kV power line drones, right? Those are Faraday protected,
Sure.
With copper plating, sometimes with again carbon fiber plating. Those drones would be very less susceptible to the rifle. I still think they would be susceptible, but they would be less susceptible.
Well, let me ask you this: where is home? I mean, we talked on a previous podcast that you can set your home.
Your dynamic home point.
Your dynamic home point.
But if you can't communicate with so if you were to take off and then you set your dynamic home point right before you go, that could work, but they're still going to find the drone, they're still going to find the serial number, and they're still going to connect it to you.
Yeah.
So,
True.
I mean, just don't be stupid with your drone. I mean, gosh. I mean, I just don't want people to be stupid with their drone, because I want the industry to flourish.
Yeah, I think we're talking more about the bad guys.
I know.
Not a dumb kid who's dumb with his drone. But anyways, it's a really fascinating thing to talk about and think about.
I just don't think the bad guys are smart enough. No offense, bad guys, but you're dumb. And I say that because I say that because you look at the guys who've been flying drones over the border, and just yesterday there was a TFR like 15 miles west of Nogales for hazards. And I think that there was another drone crash there. And I don't know for sure, but that's what I think it was. But you look at the guys in San Diego who are flying, what was it, like 9 or 18 kilos of cocaine under an S900, and it's like, well, okay, you exceeded the payload by a significant amount. That's why I crashed. You know what I mean? So I just don't think they're smart enough to calculate, how they would do this. And I'm not advocating for people to do bad things with their drones. I'm not. I'm just saying that maybe I'm not giving them enough credit, but I just don't. I think the cops are a couple steps, and even the FAA are a couple steps ahead of these guys. So
I hope you're right.
And I hope every FAA officer spends their time going after people who actually use their drones maliciously. I think that would make everyone happy, instead of just answering the phone for other operators who are calling in on other operators. Like, what is this, kindergarten? So, but you know how I'm going to stop that, Rob?
How?
I'm going to get a Freedom of Information Act request for every single FAA complaint about UAS, and we're going to show the world.
Publish it?
Yeah, we're going to show the world who's been calling in on who.
It's kind of like how they publish I don't know, that might be insensitive. Certain negative behavior gets published in the paper sometimes
It's true.
to try to thwart future negative behavior.
That's kind of my idea.
So it's kind of that same along those same lines.
Yeah. But the FAA did just post location data and information on like how many drones are in like what cities and states, and it's pretty interesting to see. There's a lot. So
Yeah, that isn't like how many 333s or how many drones?
just drones are registered.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
that wow. And so
But-
then you take that and you blow that up for those that aren't registered,
Yeah.
and you've got
A whole lot.
a whole lot.
A whole lot.
Whole
lot.
of drones.
All right. Well, let's.
We actually have a question today.
We do. We'll stop jabbering and wasting your time. Wherever you're listening, we appreciate it.
We do.
So, anyway, today's question is brought to you by Legal Flyer. Are you a drone pilot? Are you operating under a Section 333 exemption? Then you may be familiar with Item 27, which requires you to get a property release for every flight over property.
Legal Flyer is an app for iPhone and iPad that helps you create professional property releases in less time than it takes to do a pre-flight check.
You can add your pilot info, you can sign in, hand it to the property owner for their signature. But wait a second. Legal Flyer's advanced integration automatically adds latitude, longitude, and even altitude.
Then add a panorama straight from the app. Everything drops into a single-page PDF you can share with a single tap. It's compliance at light speed. Visit LegalFlyer.com for more information or get it straight from the App Store. Legal Flyer. Property releases for professional drone pilots.
Greetings, Paul. This is Dave from Arkansas. I'm a newbie to the industry and a newbie to the university. Enjoyed listening to and watching you on your podcasts. I have a question about equipment. You haven't mentioned anything at all about Yuneec's Typhoon Q500 with the 4K camera. I was wondering if you had used this equipment and just didn't like it, or if you just didn't have any experience with this equipment at all. Can you comment, please? Thank you.
All right, Rob, this one's all you, buddy.
Okay. That's not very nice, Paul. So let's just jump into it. Tell us what you think. And frankly, this is something that we have talked about before. And
This is one of those beating me up in the hallway ones.
Let's just say our goal is to be objective. And so we are objective. I mean,
Yeah.
by nature, by definition, that's who we are and what we are. The reality is you fly DJI products.
I
you
fly a
love
lot.
them.
I fly a lot of DJI products. I do have other drones. You know, we've got the Mariner, which shout out to Urban Drones, still completing that video. And we've got a 3DR Solo. We've flown 3DR for a couple years now. I've flown Yuneec products. I do not have as much experience on them as other products. Probably why we don't talk about them as much. But I do have experience with the Typhoon Q500 4K. And I want to really make sure that it's clear that we're not talking about the Typhoon H, the hexacopter. I'm talking about the Typhoon Q500 4K. It is the quadcopter version, and we did it. We got one from Drones Plus a while ago. Shout out to Drones Plus, thank you. And we tested it here at elevation, which we're almost 6,000 feet in elevation, and we broke 2 of the batteries just testing it.
So what do you mean you broke them? What happened?
Well, when you're at higher elevation, the motors have to work harder to produce the same amount of lift. Essentially, you're spinning them more.
Okay.
Well, when you do that, you're pulling more amperage out of the battery.
Okay.
And the battery that was in the Typhoon Q500 didn't have a balanced circuit on it. So it's like a traditional LiPo battery, It didn't have like the overcharge warning.
In other words, it's
hot.
not a smart battery like what DJI uses.
Correct.
Is that fair?
That is fair.
Okay. We want to be fair.
So, we broke 2 of the batteries because we were just pulling so much amperage out of the battery, and it just didn't handle this elevation very well.
Is that because you were kind of testing it, and so you maybe pushed it a little bit harder, or
It doesn't go very fast. There's only so much pushing you can really do. I think the fact, though, that it is slow is really good for people who live in California. You're going to get very smooth shots out of it because it is very slow. It is very smooth out of the box. But, you I think your density altitude, I don't know what density altitude is on that drone, is going to be a lot lower than your Phantom 3, your Phantom 4. Now, I also want to say this, we have not tested the Typhoon H yet. That's happening next month.
Very few people have, right?
Very few people have. And I will say this, I'm really excited about that drone because everything I've seen, everything I've heard, it makes it sound different than the Typhoon Q500.
Right. And,
this is Typhoon's kind of progression into the industry. The Typhoon Q500 was first, and then they had their GoPro Typhoon, and, now it's the Typhoon H, which honestly, to have the retract landing gear, to have the 6 motors, to have the points of redundancy that drone has, there are many benefits to that drone, the Typhoon H. But we honestly just haven't tested one yet.
Right.
That's happening mid-June. Hopefully the video will be done by early July, so everyone can check that out. Very excited about it. Very excited to meet up with Trent and really kind of test all the features on that. There are a lot of very cool autonomous features out of the out of the Yuneec Typhoon H that the DJI models do not have. So there is competitive advantage there. And again, to just answer his question, why haven't we talked about the Q500 before? Our experience was just that, how do I say this? I found the Phantom 3 Pro more beneficial than the Typhoon Q500, but I am not putting out any thoughts about the Typhoon H because I have not tried it, have not flown it. I will say, though, I have high expectations because what I've been seeing from Trent, what I've heard from Trent, really excited about it, honestly. Very excited about it.
Yeah.
So.
And I will also say, Dave, that probably 90% of the questions that we get are geared towards DJI products.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's because we've brought that on ourselves by talking about them. Or
no,
I think it's a combination.
Let's look at statistical data. If we look at all the 333s, which drone manufacturer represents 70% of all commercial drones?
It's
DJI.
going to be DJI, yeah, absolutely. But that appears to be changing a little bit as Yuneec gets better and better with their drones. And
let's talk about competition, right? Do you think competition is a good thing or a bad thing? Because I think competition
it's a necessity.
Yes. I think competition at DJI is the only way that we're going to further push ourselves in drone technology. So I love Yuneec. I love 3DR. 3DR, could work a little bit on their whole over-promising, under-delivering thing. But, Yuneec is an amazing company, great people. I know Yuneec and DJI are in the midst of suing one another, but that hasn't affected the personal relationships between the people who work at those two companies, and that says something about this community, and I think that says something very powerful.
And by the way, we here at Drone U are pulling for the success of both of them, not to mention even the other drone makers out there. The more successful drone makers there are, just the better the community, the better the industry. It's the more competition you're speaking to. It's a good thing, and so we're all for that. And even if we end up using nothing but DJI from this point forward, that doesn't change that.
But we're not DJI fanboys.
No,
Just want to clarify. But also another thing, because someone has told me this in the last week, why they like watching our show. They say because you can tell it's not paid content. You can tell it's not a paid review. Someone didn't send you something and paid you to review it.
Right.
And that's true. That is 100% true. We are not like the other guys who get paid for that stuff. We want to give you the real experiential, here's what we have learned on an empirical basis. Here's what we think about using it for business, because a drone may be great to take photos, but that doesn't mean it's going to be great for your business, And I give the example of, the M600 from DJI, right? Amazing vehicle. But unless you are pulling in 17 to 25,000 a day shooting with it, it is, it's not for you. So there are different levels of drones for different types of production companies. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do a lot of cinematic type stuff, large real estate type stuff, and that just lends itself to like the Inspire.
Yeah.
It works so well for that.
It does, but the Typhoon H could also be a competitor to
Yeah.
that because it's got 6 motors.
Right.
We don't know how the stability is between the two, and we're definitely going to test that. We have in fact, I need to write down all of the tests that we're doing because, Yuneec just confirmed with us last week. So very, very excited about that, and I'm grateful for these companies to send us vehicles and try them out. We were supposed to get the Pro Drone Bird right after NAB, but I learned that they had to change their company name because someone had already trademarked Pro Drone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Be
So-
creative. There's lots of other names.
Yeah, who cares?
No worries.
Anyway, it's all about branding anyway.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for us today. If you have a question about a specific drone, let us know. If you have a question about legalities, let us know. If you have a question about FPV racing, let us know. Whatever it is, we can help you answer that question. Again, if this podcast has been helpful to you, would you mind returning the favor, maybe paying it forward, give us a review, or share us? We greatly appreciate it. Anyway, we're also giving out some swag if you send in questions, so make sure you have your address. But I think that's going to do it for us today there, Bob. So my name is Paul.
And I'm Rob.
And this
Or
is
Bob.
Ask Drone U.
We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We reject indecision, confusion, and vanity, for they work against the community. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.